No, look, the whole summit was a joke. So let's just move on and save time for real issues. I mean, it was comical. This thing about jobs is absolutely incredibly ludicrous. We have lots of poor nations that have never produced a single terrorist. We have lots of massively huge Muslim nations that produce almost no terrorists. So the president's whole conference over the last 2 days, I think, was a global embarrassment.
And that embarrassment continues at the White House today. James J. Carafano, national security expert from the Heritage Foundation, offering his assessment of what's officially known as the White House Summit on Countering Violent Extremism. Not only is that a mouthful, it's a mushy mouthful, but that ponderous title simply reflects the long-standing priorities of this president and his administration. We got our first glimpse when Mr. Obama's first Homeland Security Secretary, Janet Napolitano, redefined terror attacks as man-made disasters. That was the first clue that the current crowd in charge would engage in all sorts of rhetorical contortions to avoid the term terrorism, or more specifically, Islamic terrorism. In fact, on the opening day of the current summit, our president treated us to a history lesson, a revisionist history lesson.
Here in America, Islam has been woven into the fabric of our country since its founding. Generations of Muslim immigrants came here and went to work as farmers and merchants and factory workers, helped to lay railroads and build up America. The first Islamic center in New York City was founded in the 1890s. America's first mosque, this was an interesting fact, was in North Dakota.
No, Mr. President, Islam has not been woven into the fabric of our nation since its founding. A quick check of accurate history points out that North Dakota did not become a state until 1889, more than a century after our founders did their important work. In fact, our first important interaction with Islam did not come until the presidency of Thomas Jefferson, because the Barbary pirates, the terrorists of the late 18th century, engaged in a series of unprovoked attacks on American ships. President Jefferson read the Koran. He did so not to promote some sort of multicultural understanding, but to better understand what motivated those pirates off the Libyan coast. Then, as Commander-in-Chief, President Jefferson ordered our Marines to attack. That's why the Marine hymn includes the lyrics, "To the Shores of Tripoli." Of course, our current Commander-in-Chief sings from a different songbook. When we interrupted yesterday's program to hear Mr. Obama's opening remarks from day 2 of his summit, we heard this familiar and discordant refrain.
When people, especially young people, feel entirely trapped in impoverished communities, where there is no order and no path for advancement, where there are no educational opportunities, where there are no ways to support families, and no escape from injustice and the humiliations of corruption, that feeds instability and disorder and makes those communities ripe for extremist recruitment. And we have seen that across the Middle East, and we've seen it across North Africa. So if we're serious about countering violent extremism, we have to get serious about confronting these economic grievances.
So on day 1, historical revisionism, then on day 2, economic redistributionism. You starting to sense a pattern? That's why instead of offering retreaded platitudes pregnant with multicultural jargon, what is really needed on this 3rd day of the summit is a reordering of objectives to understand and underscore what's really important. To put it politely, the president has put the cart before the horse. To use the much more colorful language of the Great Southwest, our president has it bass-ackward. What you do is first remove the threat. There is a clear and present danger to the free world and to freedom-loving peoples, whether they are Muslim or Hindu or Jewish or Buddhist, or yes, even Christian. That is, terrorists bent on killing us. First, you remove that threat, then you're free to dish out utopian bromides and redistributionist pablum. But not until then. And that's the way I see it.